Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this level, I'm very proud of you, and I now know that you are now understanding what is going on with accounting, and we are going to pass. Yes, I am beginning to smile now. At this level, I'm sure we are all going to pass. And like I said, please, I want you to complete those ledger accounts I've listed on this page. Okay, just complete these ones and show me by end of day tomorrow. Okay, end of day tomorrow. It's part of our week 2 assignment. Okay, please, I want you to show me these things. All right, I'm now erasing them because we want to move. We can't be stagnant. We can't be on the same place forever. You know that the ACCA tutor doesn't like that. Okay, we just have to move. We have to finish these things. Some of us are married guys with their partners. They want to see them progressing. Okay, and it won't be professional if we continue having a student forever, and our school management does not tolerate that. So we need to move. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and we have got those notes there. So we just have to do the trial balance, and a trial balance is a list of balances, a list of ledger balances this time now, a list of ledger balances shown in debit and credit columns. So simple, isn't it? Trial balance. A list of okay, what would be a list of ledger balances, and we've just done the ledger balances. Okay, if you complete everything at the assignment, you can see that you can proudly say, I've done ledger balances. Okay, we've completed the ledger balances. These are the ledger balances. This balance brought forward, balance brought forward, balance brought forward. These ones are ledger balances now. Are we together? So a trial balance looks like this. Hey, for record. Okay, this is a trial balance. Okay, the trial balance shows an account here. Okay, account, then debit, credit. Okay, the name of the account. Okay, here, because we have done the ledger accounts. These are the ledger accounts. This is the list. We'll be having a list of accounts, ledger accounts. Okay, account, ledger accounts. These are ledger account, then we list them down here. But we have to know that if we list them, is it going to be a debit or a credit? And like I said, the PO's acronym should guide us. Okay, and also the balance, the side of the balance brought forward should also guide us. So there are so many ways you can lead yourself. The side of the balance brought forward must be the side where that balance should appear on the trial balance. It's very simple. Okay, why do we do the trial balance? To ensure that by the end of the day, the trial balance, the ultimate balances on both the credit and the debit should balance. Remember, we have got this accounting equation. If you still remember, in our first week's lecture, okay, there is an accounting equation. Accounting equation. What does it say? Assets is equal to capital plus liabilities, isn't it? Assets is equal to liabilities. Assets is equal to liabilities, and liabilities, like I said, they involve capital as well as ordinary liabilities themselves. This is the equation, and this is where the trial balance is centered on. The debit and the credit should balance. Okay, now don't worry, you understand as we go. Okay, don't worry. Okay, so let us slot in the figures in our trial balance. I'm going to do just 3 entries, and you are going to complete everything. as part of the assignment for this trial balance, because the trial balance is going to come in the exam. I don't want you guys to fail low. I don't want you guys to fail. So you must show me the vivacity, the readiness, okay, the will to pass. All right, so we are going to start with the cash account. What was the balance on the cash account? If you still remember, if you guys still remember, the balance on the cash account, like I said, the balance brought forward is on the debit. So we're going to take this 2380 on the debit side. Simple. Hey, 2380. This is a debit balance. 2380. So simple, isn't it? That's the trial balance. Then what about the sales? And like I said, from the PO's acronym, the sales balance should always be on the credit side. And if I find you writing the sales balance on the debit, here, I'll cry and say, hey man, what's happening to my student? Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, so that's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. That's what is happening. All right, so the sales balance is going to be on the credit side, but let us go to the sales account, because that information is coming from the accounts in our general ledger. So sales ledger, amen. Sales ledger is okay, sales account, showing us that the balance BF is 1840. So that's the balance we are going to put in our trial balance. 1840 credit. 1840. Okay, then we have got purchases. Purchases, are they debit or credit? Obviously they are debit from our PO's acronym. They are debit, but let us verify for sure. Let's be sure. You can see that the purchases account is showing that purchases are having a debit balance. This is a debit balance. The side where the balance brought forward is, that's where the you can determine if the account is a debit, has got a debit or a credit balance. You see that our purchases in this case have got a debit balance, and by default usually purchases have got a debit balance. So 1760 debit, 1760. 1760 debit. Okay, then the last one, receivables. Receivables. Receivables are assets, and being assets, they should be on the debit side, but let us be sure. Receivables, you can see that the balance brought forward for receivables is on the debit side, so therefore receivables are having a debit balance 740 debit. So I want you to finish for the remaining accounts I have given you. You must also come up with the trial balance, which is very complete. When it is complete, both sides, there is no balance brought forward for trial balance. There is no balance brought forward. They should agree. No balancing figure required, nothing. The debit and the credit should come up with same value. Here, it should balance. We don't want to see any balance carried forward. It says that there is no balance carried forward in the trial balance. Hey, am I talking to somebody? Am I talking to somebody? There is no balance carried forward or balance brought forward for a trial balance. Am I talking to somebody? Because by the end of the day, the trial balance should balance. It should balance. But in our next and final segment here, sometimes a trial balance does not balance. Yes, sometimes a trial balance does not balance. And if it doesn't balance, then there was an error somewhere. We recorded, we had an error, or there was fraud. Okay? But sometimes again, the trial balance balances when there are errors. Am I talking to somebody again? Sometimes a trial balance balances, but in error. If the two columns of the trial balance are not equal, there must be an error in recorded transactions in the account. A trial balance, however, will not disclose the following types of errors, which means that in this case, the trial balance will be showing a well-balanced trial balance. Every side will be equal to one another. Okay, each side will be equal to another, but it will be falsy. It will be faulty. Okay, so which are those errors which, when they happen or when they are incurred or committed, they are not going to be detected by the trial balance? Okay, got an error of complete omission of a transaction because neither a debit nor a credit has been made. Then if we do nothing to our records, then it means that we have committed an error of complete omission. The trial balance is going to balance, but in error. Then we've got an error of commission. No, everything is there on the notes. Okay, error of commission, where we are saying that we have posted a debit or credit to the correct side of the ledger, but to a wrong account, or posting the wrong amount in error. We just posted $60 instead of $40. That's an error of commission. Then there are what are called compensating errors. Okay, for example, debit error of $100 is exactly cancelled by a credit error of $100 elsewhere. Okay, and that one is very rare, but it happens. That's compensating error. Okay, on the debit side we had put $60 in error, and then on the credit side we also put $60 in error. That's a compensating error. Then errors of principle. For example, cash received from customers being debited to the total receivables account and credited to cash instead of the other way around. Okay, that's an error of principle where the accounting principle has been violated. Okay, the accounting principle has been violated. We call that one an error of principle. Then error of transposition, where we are saying that instead of writing in our books of primary entry, we write the figure for 11279 instead of 11729. That's an error of transposition, but usually it is not only going to be detected if it occurs in the book of prime entry. Okay, book of original entry. Okay, that's it. Once an error has been detected, it needs to be put right. If the correction involves a double entry in the ledger accounts, then it is done by using a journal entry. Remember, we talked of the journal entries. Then when the error breaks the rule of double entry, for example single entry, where a debit entry has been made but no corresponding credit, then it is corrected by creation of a suspense account, which is then cleared using journal entries. Now you've been taken to another exam pool. Okay, exam questions pool, that is the suspense accounts. A suspense account is a temporary account which can be opened for a number of reasons. The most common are as follows. A trial balance is drawn up which does not balance. Total debits do not equal total credits. Okay, in this case, come here. I say that the trial balance, your trial balance for the Rindai Banga should balance. However, sometimes you discover that you have done everything correct, everything is fine. You're telling yourself that you are convinced that everything is fine, but the debit is found not, or the debit and the credit are not balancing. So what happens is you create a suspense account. It is a temporary account just to make sure that the trial balance balances. Then you put the deficit, you put the value to the side where the trial balance has got a deficit, where it is got a shortfall. That's where you put the suspense account, and that's where, if the deficit is on the credit, then the suspense account should be a debit suspense account. A credit suspense account. If it is the debit that has got a deficit, then you put a debit suspense account. So simple, isn't it? You open a debit suspense account. Okay, we'll see that one with an example shortly. And the bookkeeper, sometimes the bookkeeper of a business knows where to post the credit side of a transaction but does not know where to post the debit, or vice versa. For example, a cash payment might be made but obviously be credited to cash, but the bookkeeper may not know what payment is for, and so will not know which account to debit. So this is why he ends up putting a suspense account, so that he investigates further. Okay, there is an example there. Okay, there is an example there for Ngala. Okay, where we have got the Ngala guy. The Ngala guy. Okay, Ngala Limited extracts a trial balance and finds that credit exceeds debits by 4420. Okay, so what's happening is, in this trial balance, okay, okay, Ngala Limited. Okay, so what we are saying, the credit exceeds the debit, so the suspense account for 4420 was required, or was opened. Okay, let us just forget about all these ones here. You have them, you just have to replay the video. Okay, just have to replay the video. Okay, suspense account. Okay, God, my handwriting is poor. My drawing talent is very, 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 very poor. Okay, now this is what happens normally when we do these things. We have to be led by the question. Okay, we have to be led by the questions. So this is what happened. The accountant just put 4420, okay, on the debit side. All right, Let me just answer this call for a minute. The accountant, after investigating, before investigating, you opened a suspense account to ensure that the trial balance balances, and you opened a debit suspense account to ensure it meets with the deficit required to balance up, because the credit side was found to be exceeding the debits by 4,420. So when he finds out the causes for this disparity, you have to make a suspense account closing this other one. Are we together? Okay, what we are saying is this suspense account is a temporal balance. Okay, we have to find debit entries which are required. There are debit entries required to fill up this position, this vacancy. It's a vacant amount. Okay, it's a vacant position here. So there are debit entries. Okay, there are debit entries required. We have to find out which ones are those entries to fill up this gap of 4,420. When we find those debit entries, we have to remove this suspense account. So this is why I said it is only going to be removed by another suspense account credit 4420 of the same amount. But it is first opened on the side where there is a deficit in the trial balance. But in the end, when we find those entries required to fill up the gap, we then have to make a closing suspense account to ensure that they cancel one another, this one, and the correct entries are put in the trial balance. So in this case, what is happening in our example there? Let's see what is happening. Hey, doesn't erase these other things. That's technology, isn't it? That's fine. Just joking with my friends. Okay, let's do it. We're now going to attack this question systematically. Okay, we have known the disparity and we have put a suspense account. That's fine. Now subsequently the following errors are discovered. The bookkeeper made a transposition error in recording sales. Transposition, you know what it means, right? Instead of entering 37,453, she entered 37,543. So in this case, what was the error of a statement of sales? By how much? By how much? We want to know the figure of, okay, 37,543. 37,543 minus 37,453. Okay, so there was an overstatement of sales by $90. So what do we have to do? We know that the sales have been overstated. What do we have to do? We are being guided. Like I said, the PL's acronym is going to be our passport. These are debits, these are credits. If we want to increase the debits, the P, the purchases, expenses, assets, we debit them. If we want to increase the revenue, that is the sales, liabilities, share capital, we credit. In this case, the sales are already higher. They're already overstated. So what it means is we have to reduce the sales. How do we reduce? Because by crediting we are increasing. So to reduce them, we have to debit the sales. We have to debit the sales. So we are going to debit the sales. How much? By how much? By $90. Okay, if we debit the sales, what then happens? We credit something. We are crediting what now? In this case, we are crediting suspense accounts. Suspense account, $90. This is what we are going to do. Okay, and automatically, the suspense account, you can see that it is already on the debit. So to close it, to close this suspense account, we have to credit it, and part of the credit amount is $90. You can see there is a consistency in the way we are doing things. The suspense account is already in the debit, this temporary suspense account, but to remove it we have to originate a credit suspense account. So you can see, so we are going to create a debit, a credit entry in the suspense account, but because the debit entry which is required is to debit the sales with 90. If we debit sales with 90, then we are home and dry, because there was an overstatement of sales. Okay, that's one of the entries required. Okay, that's one of the entries required. Then the other entry which we need, because I don't have space, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to erase this one to give room for others. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry. Okay, for B, what's happening to B? The monthly salaries of 5,250 were correctly entered. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, were correctly entered in the cash book, but the other half of the double entry was not made. Okay, this is a very interesting scenario. The monthly salaries of 5,250 were correctly entered in the cash book, which means in the cash book the payment was recorded. Okay, fine. So there was a credit entry made. Credit entry made in cash book, but the other half, the debit, was not. And where was this debit supposed to have been made? In the wages, in the salaries or wages account, because it is an expense, isn't it? An expense should be debited, but it was not. So what do we have to do? We have to debit salaries. salaries account. With how much? With the amount, the same amount. How much is it? 5250. And do what? Credit suspense account with the same amount. C. Part C. A customer paid $460. This was correctly recorded in the cash book, but was debited to the sales ledger control account. Debited to the sales ledger control account. I don't like, don't be confused about this balance, this and that. But my students, I know you guys, I know you. Okay. Alright, don't be confused with this trial balance thing. Okay, we're not talking about trial balances in this case. Okay, we're talking of suspense accounts. Fine. Okay, part C. A customer paid $460. This was correctly recorded in the cash book, so which means that the debit entries for the cash book were fine. Okay, debit entry in cash book, fine. Okay, this was correctly recorded in the cash book, but was debited again. There was also debit, but because what was supposed to have happened is debit, cash book, and credit. There was supposed to be a credit to the sales ledger control account. Sales ledger control account is the same as receivables control account. Hey, am I talking to somebody? The receivables ledger is also called the sales ledger. Okay, and the receivables account is also called the receivables ledger control account. So this is just a matter of terminology. Just terminology. Do not be intimidated by that at this level. You're having the ACCA tutor by your side, so do not be intimidated. So the sales ledger, sales ledger control was supposed to have been credited, but instead of this, there was a debit entry made in this account of 460. So what happens is we need to reverse this. We need to reverse this. We need to reverse this by how much? We have to credit the sales ledger with 460 by 2, which is equal to 920. That's the amount we need to this is the amount we need to ensure that this transaction has been dealt with correctly. Okay, this is the amount we need. So we have to credit the sales ledger control account with 920. So if we are crediting sales ledger, something should be debited, and debit suspense account with the same amount, 920. Okay, so basically basically you will see that the debit entries, we're having sales overstated 90. We're also having salaries, that is 5250. Okay, 5250. Okay, and the credit entries required is 920. Okay, so what it means is the credit entries should set off the debit entries. So what happens is, if we put our credit here is the credit for the sales ledger of 920. If we deduct it from the debits, we're going to have another value here. How much is it? What is that? 90 plus 5250 minus 920. We're going to have 4420. Okay, we're going to have 4420, which is this value here. So after we do this, we can see that our trial balance is now balancing. Okay, our trial balance is now balanced. Okay, one might ask and say, hey, why are we now debiting the suspense account when we have already opened a suspense account with a debit balance? Okay, what happens here is the credit entries which we have made, they are already surpassing the 44. Like for example, the debit, the debit of 5250 already is now exceeding the suspense account balance. So it doesn't mean that all the entries for the correction of the error are going to be debit. No, you just have to. Some of the errors, remember, there are some overstatements, some errors of principle here, as in the last one. Okay, yeah, this is an error of principle. The accounting principle was violated, so we need to ensure that all those transactions are taken care of. So it's not a matter of just behaving like machines, programmed machines. We have to use our common sense as we attack these questions. All right, so that's what is happening. All right, do we have further examples? Further examples, that means. All right, so as part of your learning, I also want you to try example quickly. Okay, as part of your assignment. This is an assignment. Example quickly. On top of the assignments you have to attempt. Okay, you have to attempt all these questions. All right, until we meet again, let us just call it a very, 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 very pleasant goodbye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. You are so wonderful. I thank you guys. I give a shout out to you, and I also want you to give a shout at me. Okay, you are so wonderful, guys, and thank you for your loyalty and continued support to the Transfer Consulting Services dream. Okay, and make this school great as it should be. Thank you very much. Thank you.